hardest one of the year. All right, so now we're up to operating millage, which Dr. Mashad explained how the operating millage works, why we asked for it, why we're asking for it now, things like that. There will be an opportunity here if there's discussion, but can I please have a motion that the FHPS Board of Education adopt the resolution setting the date of May 6, 2025 for the purposes of putting before the voters a 6-year renewal of the 18 mil operating millage and setting the ballot wording and election registration notice forms.
Yes, moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion or questions on the operating millage? Okay, let's go ahead with our roll call vote then, please.
Dr. Mashad?
Yes.
Ms. Commode?
Yes.
Mrs. Strigali?
Yes.
Mrs. Tryon?
Yes.
Dr. Fawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Niemeyer, yes.
Thank you. All right, now we are up to board policies. I'll just do a little brief primer here on this one. As you all know, in August, well, under the Biden administration, there were changes made to Title IX, to those regulations. We needed to be in concordance with those regulations. So in August of last year, we adopted new policies that were reflective of those regulations. There were court cases that came out through this, but until court cases decided one way or another, that's still what we have to follow. Just in January, this last month, there was a federal district, or a federal judge who ruled that those are not allowed to be followed. And so that we need to revert to 2020 regulations. So since that is now the regulations that according to courts of law that we have to follow, what we are voting on tonight is to put back into place the 2020 regulations that we had prior to when we adopted the 2024. Because like last time, the 2024 were the regulations, that was the law that we were supposed to follow, and now that has changed, and so now we need to make sure that our policies are reverted back to follow what the current law is. So can I please have a motion that the Forest Hills Public Schools Board of Education adopt and or delete the policies as were presented in the board packet?
Could I actually mention something before? Is there any opportunity to discuss?
There is
these at all?
absolutely
Okay.
option
Okay.
to discuss. So we got
Well,
move, second, and then discuss.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, beautiful, so moved, yeah, thank you.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Thank you, sorry. I just wanted to say that for all of this, you know, all the verbiage that's going back and forth at the federal level and our duty to comply with those things that has caused all, you know, the kind of ping-ponging, my goal in sifting through all of these as a non-attorney, as a non-politician, you know, all these things, is just to feel confident that every kid in Forest Hills and every staff member in Forest Hills and every adult and everybody is protected and feels safe and is not discriminated against. And I feel that that is the case. I felt that that was the case before we did the first change in August, and that it continues to be now. That more than just federal policy dictates how we treat people in Forest Hills, and there are state things and there are district things, expectations. And so that has been my goal, I guess. Hopefully we all feel the same, that to the best of my understanding, that all of that is in place to protect all learners and all people in Forest Hills, regardless of the federal ping-ponging that occurs or may still occur or whatever. So I just wanted that to be said. I feel confident that that's the case.
Yeah, I agree, and that is exactly the case, is that we do have, in Michigan, we have the Elliott Larson Act that has layers of protection. We have board policies, things like that. This is really only affects if there is a harassment or discrimination case that somebody wants to file under Title IX. It affects how that process unfolds, like who's eligible, how they're treated, and what the process is. All the other things that we want to have for our kids to make sure that they're not bullied and that they are welcomed and all of those things, we still have policies and procedures in place for all of that. So, is there anything else?
Well said. Yeah, it's exactly what I would have said.
Well, thank you. All right, so then can we please have a vote on adopting and deleting the board policies?
Dr. Mashad?
Yes.
Ms. Commode?
Yes.
Mr. Colley?
Yes.
Mrs. Tryon?
Yes.
Dr. Fawcett?
Yes.
Mrs. Steinmeier, yes.
All right, and now we are up to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. There are definitely some things happening, and great job on your committee reports. The details of them were very important, and appreciate that. The governor created her budget proposal, and her finance people presented that. On the surface, it looks good. The amount of revenue coming into the state of Michigan is a positive, and what she's projecting in her proposal, and keep in mind, she's one of three. This kind of gets the budget year started for them, is a 4% increase, which would be about $10,000 a student, which is great. The caveat to that is that they're not giving us the same money they gave last year around the retirement costs to reduce the overall district costs. So it likely will, if it all went the way that she put it, that would be a negative for us, so that isn't overly great. There are some categoricals too that have a 4% increase. Many of those categoricals don't impact us at a high level. But ultimately, what is to know, those two things, the 4% increase is what she's looking at, and then not funding the retirement costs. So we'll continue to watch that, because that is a big piece. She will have her State of the State on February 26th. She'll talk a little bit, around her initiatives and those kinds of things. Important to note, unfortunately, they're in her budget proposal still funding colleges out of the school aid fund, which is a significant hit. If that in and of itself stopped, it would make a tremendous impact in public education. The Senate has put forth some legal action to get those 9 bills that have not been sent to the governor yet. They're trying to get those sent to the governor. So again, there's just lots of bickering that's going on there. But those 9 bills, we have Bill 6058, which would impact health insurance. It's the one we've been updating for a while, but it is still in that package. So that still sits there, but that is going to be argued out in the courts, it looks like. One of the things to acknowledge is with all these executive orders, and CJ talked a little bit about the ping-ponging and so on, but just keeping in mind that executive orders are memos to respective departments within the government, and they're directives, and they're not law. And so from that, when those executive orders take place, then there's usually timeframes, 90 days, 120 days for a plan to be created. But as we've seen, many of those come with lawsuits, and then that ultimately dictates if there is anything for school districts or other organizations to do. So just keeping that in mind, because I think there's a lot of people that hear when there's an executive order and they see it on social media that it's happening the next day, and that's not the case within schools. We have worked with our administration to understand and kind of reiterate what expectations are when we have people that come to offices and are requesting information. We as a school district are constantly working with outside agencies that might be looking for information, or that they want to have meetings and so on. And ultimately, there are processes in place, and we really, from our district, are looking to centralize those information requests so that they come through Assistant Superintendent Anise or myself, if there's anything that's out of the ordinary or the non-typical. So our staff is well aware of that, those that would be exercising those requests. The operational millage, obviously CJ talked about that in depth, but just can't reiterate enough that is a requirement for communities in order to get full foundation allowance for our students, and it's an imperative piece, so I appreciate the approval on that. We do have midwinter break this Friday and the following Monday, although the weather people might be starting a little early for us according to students on social media. So it does look like Wednesday afternoon and Thursday we'll have a snow event up to 6 to 8 inches, so we'll see what that brings, but you might want to take your stuff home with you when you go on Wednesday.
So you're saying you don't have to panic about getting those Valentines filled out?
Yeah.
You might want to do it early.
Okay.
The other piece I wanted to mention is that we've talked a lot about getting people's voice and hearing people's perspective. In the middle of this month, we'll be putting out our engagement surveys. Really looking forward to that it will go out to all of our stakeholders, and that will include our employee groups, that'll include our parents, that'll include students. And ultimately, what we're really trying to figure out is what type of experience have they had here at Forest Hills, whether they're an employee, a parent, or a student, and then really identifying what barriers that might be there and try to create a better experience for them moving forward. And those will be, a normal cadence as we continue, and we're really looking forward to that. That'll be a third party that will help us with that survey, that will get the results of the survey, will help summarize the survey, and then ultimately we'll take action steps, based on the district, based on the individual buildings, departments, and so on. So really looking forward to that. And then in the month of March, there'll be another survey that will go out, and that will be focused around some of our programming that we have, and try to see what type of an impact that is having as well, and if it's meeting the needs of our learners and our communities. So lots of opportunities to appropriately give your feedback and your voice around some of these topics. That's so important to all of us. So looking forward to that.
Thank you very much. All right, we are up to board communications. Does anybody have any board communications today? No? It's only been a few weeks since our last meeting. That means quiet.
Well, I have two, that means.
Oh, you do have two. You were sitting there looking down. I was like, oh my gosh, CJ doesn't have one this month.
Sorry. One, just a quick update from the foundation. The spring grant cycle is closed. They received about 40 applications, totaling like a couple $100,000 in asks, which is really cool. Some really innovative things. So those are being reviewed. Middle of March will be the announcement of those award winners. The foundation would also like the district to know they're looking for a couple of new volunteers for their board of trustees. There are 2 vacant seats, I think, coming up on the board. Both of them are Forest Hill Central folks who are leaving the board. It's not a requirement that you're in Forest Hill Central, but they just try to, I think, keep equal representation from the different attendance areas. So if anybody out there is interested in volunteering and doing more through the foundation, they can find more information on the website or reach out to Emma Rodell to learn more about that. And my second update was that I got to take the kids to Forest Hills Eastern's production of Mary Poppins this weekend at the Fine Arts Center. It was incredibly well done. As usual, they had a great time. Our kids did, everyone did awesome. But what I really noticed, we went to the matinee on Saturday, and there were dozens of students in their shirts and ties and dresses, also there to see the show right before going off to swirls and to dances. And that the Eastern students' peers from Northern and Central, in the midst of their busy day and big day and night, still felt to come and support them and to go straight to dinner and dance from there. I just thought that was very cool to see them support their peers and just see students really embrace, one FHPS, I guess. So that was my thought as I was chasing kids through the lobby afterwards, trying to get autographs from everyone. So bravo to the Eastern Theater. It was a very good show.
Awesome, thank you.
It actually worked out, probably perfect.
Yeah, that's
straight to dinner.
amazing.
Yeah, so very cool.
Does anybody else have